Yeah. And I'll just go.
I think we're ready.
What if people send a message to the two groups?
Thank you, that's an answer as last week.
I'm surprised John because we
Yeah.
We're ready.
Just reaction to the
Now,
He said he doesn't think that he's got any other time to do this.
we're all ready. Down the end, we're ready. If you'd like to come in and just take a seat quietly, please. Quietly. Well, we have 7 minutes. Yes, come in. We take a seat quietly. So sit quietly wherever you like. Thank you. Thank you. Quietly, take a seat, please. Okay. Alright, come and sit wherever you like. Nice quietly. Okay, so we're gonna kind of continue on a bit from what we were doing last lesson with our light and colour stuff. And we're going to look a bit more at how light is made up and the property of waves. So we're going to look at a bit more of that science background today from that kind of context. So as we're going through this lesson, we're going to get you to fill out the front of this worksheet. There's some blank spaces, keywords, some diagrams and stuff. And then once we've got through that, we've got a little activity to test the reading knowledge that we've learned, okay? So there's pens and texts and stuff, and we can go through that. So we're gonna learn the difference between sound and light. They both operate in waves, but they're a bit different. And then investigate what the 2 types of waves and what they are used for. And then we'll discuss the findings with the class at the end as well. All right? So to start with, let's look at the general properties of waves. So this will be your first few diagrams at the top. So waves always travel in a straight line. Now, this is a really important key thing when we're looking at some of our final pieces later, our final projects that we'll be doing at the end of this kind of unit. It's important to understand that light and sound always travels in that straight line. Now it can travel through an object, so this is your top one if you're filling out those boxes with your arrows.
So have a look at the diagrams on your boxes. Those blue boxes are the object. So when you're looking at these diagrams, this is the object that it's traveling through.
Right? So we've got transmission. That's when it can pass through something.
Is that 1, 2, or 3?
That'll be 3, so you can see the straight down arrow, yeah. If you have it bouncing off something, we have reflection.
Number 1.
Yeah, number 1. So now, the key important thing to note here, can anyone see, if we look at an object like this, can everyone see, I'm going to be in the way. And this text was not as exciting as I thought it was going to be. If we have a wave come in like that, it's important here to note that this angle is going to be the same in these spaces, okay? So when you're drawing a diagram for something like this, it's really important to make sure that this comes in and comes out at the same angle. We'll learn about that more kind of later through the course, but it won't ever kind of come out like this or like this. It's always going to be on that same angle. And the third one we've got is refraction. So that'll be your middle one. Now this is when light bends through an object. So it'll pass through like transmission, but if it comes in at an angle and we have it pass through that medium, that object, it travels at a different speed and that causes the waves to bend, okay? So you can see that here. We have it coming in at one angle and this is at a different angle. It's passing straight through. Draw another diagram here. Passing straight through, right? Like a transmission, it would look like this. But it doesn't. It bends, comes down like this, and then comes out. Now, can anyone see something important here with this? This is a tricky one, but where it comes out and where it goes in, these are
goes in, looks a little funny, and then comes out again. Are there any examples of
Glass.
way? Yeah?
Yep.
And what would happen with the glass? Is it just if you put something in that glass, or does something have to be in there as well?
Water as well.
Yeah, that's a really good example. Is if you have like a glass of water, it's really easy to see that bending of light. Because if you look at a pen or something in the water, it doesn't kind of match up. You have that. You'll notice that image where it's shifted a little bit, and that's because that image bends as it comes out of light, and they look like it's disconnected. So make sure you're drawing your arrows on your worksheet as well. You're filling those diagrams out as well. And then we're going to move on to the next bit, which is the bottom half, and we'll talk about the two different types of waves. So we have transverse and longitudinal waves. Now longitudinal waves are the top one here. They travel in the direction of travel. Okay, so your wave, think of like a spring where it compresses and then decompresses and then compresses and decompresses, and that happens in the direction of travel. That is longitudinal. Whereas a transverse wave, as you can see, this is your direction of travel, and the wave itself happens perpendicular to that. Okay?
So if you're having trouble remembering that, you have to think of it with the longitudinal wave, it's long. So everything is going out in the direction of travel, whereas transverse,
Trans is opposite. Trans will, in all of your science, in a lot of your world, trans is going to be your opposite.
Yeah.
So it's opposite to the direction of travel. Okay, so make sure we're filling out these key terms. In your diagrams, you've got wavelength. Now this is the distance between your two crests on your waves. So you can see up here, do we have it on these ones? Yep. It'll be compression and rarefaction. So while a transverse wave has peaks and troughs, a longitudinal has compression, which is where it comes close, and then rarefaction, which is where it spreads out. Now, saying your wavelength is between two of the same point. So we have one compression, two compression, that's your longitudinal wavelength. And make sure we fill that. This is your wavelength, and stuff like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do. Is a little activity, and then we'll go through these as a class. This table, just work with the person next to you, and then we'll work in threes. But these cards have a word and a definition, and we just want you to match the words to the definitions. Yeah, just keep on the front first, match the cards, and we'll go through the back side afterwards. So, get stuck into that. You got about 5 minutes.
Yeah. So just work together in your pairs, and you don't necessarily have to be correct right off the bat. Just see if you can have somewhat of an educated guess, a bit of a guesstimate, see what you think it might mean.
Yeah, it's okay, because we'll go through it after.
Can any transfer energy through the machine? A transfer of one energy from the machine.
And as you're doing this, if I can just grab everyone's eyes on me, while you're doing this, if there's any specific words that you're not sure on, just write them down at that bottom section of your sheet if you've still got room or an empty space, and then we can go over them afterwards. So if there's any words that you're a little bit confused about, we can go over those.
Yeah, there's a couple in this list that we haven't covered yet, and we just want to see if you can kind of use a bit of deduction to work out what they are. If you're unsure, that's okay, because we will go over more detailed descriptions of these afterwards. Yeah. Do you have any that you're not sure on, or are you pretty confident with all of them?
Yeah. Transferring for emotion particles when needed.
Very good.
Not having waves are moving, so you're just trying to
Yeah, remember what we said?
Yeah,
You're not the
yeah,
answer, don't worry.
But then transverse, oh no, perpendicular is.
So transverse is like, perpendicular is
Yep.
like 90 degrees, so
Yeah.
the motion's in this
So
direction.
you have
As
the
opposed to
same
this
answers on the table here?
What about motions to particles in a medium?
So that would just be your definition of a general wave, so energy is being transferred through.
Perfect.
So how's everyone going? We're almost done. Put your hands up if you're done.
Wonder where that one goes.
Hands up,
Yep.
hands up, hands up. We're all good. Yep. So I think the main one that we kind of
Yeah.
that we didn't cover. There's a couple in there that we didn't cover so yet, but we'll get to them. So what we're going to do is go through these answers as a class. Right. So the first one, waves. Oh, that's annoying. I wish I didn't have those on there. That's for me. Who got this first one right? Waves. Yep. So that's that definition. Can anyone? It's John, right?
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of a wave that you can think of, like a transfer of that energy? There's lots of examples.
Well, besides sound.
Yeah, sound's a good one. So sound, do you know how the sound waves work? If we're talking about transfer of energy? No? So it would be, they operate in a longitudinal, and that's that compression. So we have like air particles compressed, and then they stretch out, and that's how we have sound waves. Did everyone get transmission right? Hands up.
When the wave passes directly from an object.
Let's go.
Yep. Perfect. So, like you said earlier, glass, water, you're seeing that light pass right through there. Okay, so amplitude. Did anyone at this front page here, did you get amplitude right? Yep. So this is one that we hadn't covered yet. It's an important one, a little bit of a deduction. It's that maximum point, so the height of a wave. And this is a little bit of a hard one to see in longitudinal waves, so that compression, it's hard to see the height of it when it occurs in like a kind of a singular direction. But when it's related to sound, it is about the volume, the size of that amplitude, the volume is related to the volume.
I'm also seeing a bunch of you have already flipped over your sheets and you're just drawing the line connecting the term to the
Good point.
correct definition.
Yeah.
So if you haven't already started doing that, you're welcome to just start. This is going to be one of your reference sheets. So as you're going through and when we're starting to work on the next couple lessons, when we're going back over these, you can have this as your reference sheet.
Next we had transverse, which is obviously the ones that move perpendicular, and then wavelength. Okay, so wavelength, transmission, what's on this first page? Waves. 1, 2, 3, and amplitude. Okay,
So everyone got those ones?
so don't go to the next one. No. So, the next ones we had, on the next slide we'll go through the answers in a second, were reflection. Down here, can you tell me, no you're right, yeah, no. Alice, yeah? April. I'm terrible with names. What did you have for reflection?
When a wave bounces off an object.
Yeah, is that what everyone had? So when a wave bounces off an object? Perfect, correct? Table at the back, what definition did you match to longitudinal?
Waves that move in the same direction as travel.
Yeah, absolutely. Table at the front here, what did you have for refraction?
When a wave bends while passing to an object.
And finally, frequency.
We had the rate at which wave crests occur.
Yeah, so we talked about those. It's either in longitudinal or transverse when you measure that wavelength. However many of those you have in a certain time period, that's what we call our frequency. Okay, so we can see all our answers there. Make sure you've got all our matched up. If you need to keep doing that on the back. And now we're going to look at some examples. Alright?
Alrighty. So are going to gallery walk around. You're going to grab one of your markers from the table and you are going to look on each of these pieces of paper that is just in front of them. So on each sheet of paper, you're thinking about these things. On each sheet of paper, there is a connection between what we've just looked at here. What examples of refraction, or transmission can you see? So we've just looked at these terms. One of these artworks will correlate to one of these. What's one observation idea when you're looking at the work? So if those of you who remember last time when we were having a look at the artworks, you were having to make educated guesses or saying what you thought might be happening in these works. There's some key phrases that we were looking at last lesson that can help you guide some prompts, spark some thinking. So you might want to just pick one and go around and then have just one thought. You might go around and go, what textures can I see in each of these pieces? So put one thought down and then 3 words to describe each work. If you get up to that, you might only have 1 word by the time you make it all the way around. Try and put at least 1 word that you think describes either the feeling or what you think of the artwork. And have a look at what different types of artworks they are. These are not all traditional paintings, so you might have to think a little bit laterally about this one. So grab your pens, up your hop, tuck your chairs out the way, and just probably go towards the tables that are nearest to you. So the back table, head to the one at the back, and the 2 side tables head off to the side and rotate round. And we'll give you a couple minutes to do that.
Do you write it on the sheet or on the page?
On the page in front of you, so
Oh,
the
good.
big blank piece of paper.
That makes sense.
Big blank piece of paper.
I didn't even look at that.
Refraction.
I mean, that's one observation.
Bending off and on.
So you can continue. Feel free to keep having a chat,
Is anything else happening?
I think so.
but
Right.
this is each of you individually can write some stuff down.
Especially because the light's kind of on an angle.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it could be.
And so what I think
It's like looking
this
at
artist has done is gotten bits of perspex, like coloured perspex and stuff, around a singular.
So you don't have to unpack the entire meaning of the word like it's last
Oh,
great mystery,
reflection
but
on the chair.
something, but one element you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure.
So we're looking at the work, some
Yeah.
fish.
Whatever you want.
So once you've put your words down, you can move wherever else you need to go to. So each of you will
Read the work.
One.
Vague.
Do I go one
Oh, yeah,
observation plus
reflection
idea?
is
Do I do
fine.
that like?
Yeah, come up with your own self actually.
Surrealism?
Surreal
This
versus
is a good one to think about as well. Is like when we were talking about light traveling in a straight line.
So you can
like
just
waves
write
traveling
wherever
in a
you
straight
want on
line.
the page. Doesn't
Oh,
have to be.
okay.
You don't have to answer
Shadow,
like
right? So
questions. Just
if it bent around it.
Okay.
It's kind of
Shadow,
an individual
that
thing where you're going,
kind of
I see this, that, and this, and then you can just go off to whichever other
Okay,
one.
okay.
Specific of your
That's not
course to dialogue
So,
kind of thing.
Next.
So put your words down, move on to
Easy
the
class.
next
Yeah, I was
one.
missing an E.
Yeah. 2 E's.
So if you're stuck for thoughts, you
This
might
one's a
just
good one.
go
This is one of my
to
favourite.
Yes. Yeah, what did we say?
beard, right?
Can't even hear me.
Emotion. Like,
What kind of emotion you? We've done an art class recently about emotions in faces, right? John, you did a whole video class on that.
I kind of did. What we're gonna think?
Hello, MC Esha.
to jump around to the other
We'll go
ones.
with
It's
it.
not
And then my picture show you MC
yeah,
Esha in
it's
class.
like very,
Always be a
it's like
favourite
monotone,
piece.
it reflects the colour as well.
Alrighty, so make sure you've moved on to the second artwork or onto your third if you're working your way around.
Is that mural or is that?
It's a
Well, what do you think it is? What could it be?
We agree.
Yeah,
Cellophane, let's go.
The person put the right down what it could be made of.
Transmission.
And remember, not all of these are paintings. So,
jump
what
around.
else could it be?
Hold up.
Yeah, wait, pen or flower?
Not going to your class.
Thank you.
Don't worry, you don't have your hand up for me to ask you questions. So I remember your name, and therefore I ask you questions.
Yeah. Where is it?
What's happening to get from here to here?
Where did you go?
So you straight out.
That's the name of my unit.
Okay.
It was interesting. It was really but they're all t-shirts like 20 trades and that was it, and then
Yeah.
you kind of get that whole range.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the
Yeah, and then additives and stuff.
Now, one observation I
And then
did,
you get, we got all of that in one task.
Colour.
You know, like, this is just like this huge,
Yes.
yeah, mixed bag. It's really interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Those
It's
fish
nice.
are alive.
vibrant, beautiful bird.
It gets
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one.
Which one of them
Yeah.
You're thinking, okay, sorry, sorry to interrupt your contemplation.
Yeah,
But
definitely. Oh, yeah.
Alright, we'll give you one more minute. We'll just give you one more minute. Make sure you've gone around to all the different artworks and written at
That's
least
a better
something
way.
down for each of them, even if it's
Oh,
just
you
a
can.
thought or an observation about what you can see in it. Go around and have a read of everyone else's things while you're at it.
whoa, he's.
I already know.
Yeah, immediately.
Also,
I'm
like,
that
she's
person
not
who knows
recording.
that
Just
I'm
like,
confident to sit through
the oath that holding the.
It's like a silver ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bearing.
Oh.
He's getting his bearings.
maybe he's a skater.
Oh, okay.
Maybe he invented skating. He's 40 years ago.
That's Tony Hawk.
This is what I can use to put in the book.
Observation idea you have a better word.
Alrighty, and as you come back to take your seats, I will grab one person from each table to take off the artwork. Actually, no, leave the artwork where it is, my mistake. Grab the paper off the table that you've all been working on. So one person grab that and take it over to the table.
They're still working on that one.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
alright.
You want to
Oh.
grab? Yeah.
Yep, grab that one, perfect.
Oh yeah, if you want to pack the little cards up, that's okay. It might give you a bit more space. You can pop those back in their bags.
Alrighty, everyone's ready to go on with this? Alrighty, so who had the piece of paper for this artwork? That's you guys over here.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you can see that stood out on that sheet that's in front of you? What have some of the comments been?
Reflection.
Reflection, so you can see that that's one of the main points that we were doing here. What other things were on that sheet? Were there any observations, shape, colour,
So,
feeling?
like a mirror and its sphere. Yeah.
Yep.
And we can see his emotions in this picture and yeah. The
Yeah.
oath man.
How do you think he's feeling?
Contemplative.
Yeah.
Contemplative.
And what tells you that?
Is the furrowing of his brow.
Yeah, beautiful. Was there anything else written down on there that you thought was interesting?
Monotone.
Mhm.
Brown. Old man reflection.
Awesome. Did anyone else have anything else that they wanted to mention about this one as they're looking at it slightly larger? Does anything stand out?
Empty. I honestly know. Like there's no one else there.
Yep. And what do you notice about the background?
I just noticed the softball doesn't have shadow. It's green.
And there's it like you'd think that if it's his hand, you'd see something behind his hands outside
Yep.
the sphere, but it's just him alone in the sphere as well.
Yeah. And you can see all of this detail of this big old room, but there's nothing happening behind him. So is he looking at a reflection of himself?
Or is he in the sphere and we're looking at
Questions being asked. Alrighty, we'll have a look at the next one. Who has the untitled bowl of water with knife and a fish on a chair? This is an actual artwork. These fish are alive. What did people think about this one?
costs of murder?
Well, people say glue, chilly, dark, uncomfortable.
Confused.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kindness, which is kind of interesting.
And was anyone able to figure out whether or not this was reflection, refraction, or transmission?
I can
seen reflection on here a couple of times,
But
but
I
I
had
think
refraction
I
here
would
as
probably go with refraction.
Yeah, so we'd be looking at that refraction. You can kind of see in this image how that knife looks like it's bent, right?
Just a
That's
little
actually
bit.
just how we see it as that light kind of bounces to our eye, straight line. It bends as it comes out of the water. So that water actually looks shallower than it is because of the bending of that knife.
And for those of you who are worried about the fish, these fish do go home to their larger tank at the end of the day, and they rotate through different groups of fish. So these fish do only stay out for a short amount of time in the bowl. Alrighty.
From 91 to 2011, that's a long time for those fish to be.
Yes, not quite the same fish, or they may not be swimming as much as floating.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and who has the last one? What have we got on that page? What have people said?
That was us. So on the page we've got transmission and refraction. Things describing, the words describing it are fun, happy, dynamic, colour, vibrant. There's a suggestion that it's possibly cellophane and it actually is coloured light. Someone said that it's maybe an art show at Illuminate. Lively, happy, light transmitting through glass as well was another suggestion.
Yeah, indeed. So, does everyone kind of get the idea that this is actually made out of just light through different coloured acetate and acrylics? So what happens is the light will pass through and it will change all of these different colours, and as they hit other lights and other bands of colour, it all changes what happens to it as it goes through. So this is just a whole bunch of mirrors and reflective surfaces bouncing light around.
This is a really good example of someone using kind of the stuff we learned last lesson about mixing colours and light and colour, and stuff we've just learned about transmission and things like that as well, and showing you how they can be used in quite a creative way. So you have all those kind of singular light points that are white, and then they get broken up into those various colours using prisms or different coloured acetates or anything like that as well. Yeah. So, just as a quick deep dive into this, our longitudinal waves, yeah, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so we'll just do this slide. Our longitudinal waves are quite often sound waves, like I said. So you can see you have that sound push the air, and that compresses it, and then it follows on. And that's how we hear. Now these have to travel through kind of a particular medium, which is why we don't have sound in space, because there's no particles out there, right? So you can't make that compression, you can't make that wave. We have our wavelengths here, you can see between those crests or those compression points, that would be our wavelength. And these occur in one dimension. So they only occur in that kind of singular travel plane. Alright? Next, please. And our final one is our transverse waves. This is often light. So we have our light travels in a wave similar to waves in an ocean. However, that is a different kind of a different motion, because you don't have that up and down. It's more like a water ripple. And these occur in perpendicular to that motion. So the motion of the wave is up and down, but they travel forward. Now these are, because of that, they occur in 2 dimensions. So what we're going to look at next time is kind of using these ideas that we've looked at to build a structure, learn about shadows, and head towards our final project. And that's it for us.
So normally we go on to another sort of activity to cover some of these types of concepts, have a look at some more of how this interacts with actual physical everyday items, objects. But in the name of time, we shall leave it here.
Thank you.
And I have the ones from last time for those that need to go and take photographs. They're over here. You don't have to, but this is just for those that, this is the, for those who weren't here last time Daniel and I did